Hello, so welcome today to our third video in the series exploring the funding options available to female-led business. Today I'm joined by Julia Rabin, who is the project lead for Diversity VC, and also by Claire Palmer, who is part of the emerging venture capital practice at Silicon Valley Bank. So Julia, would you be able to provide an overview of what Diversity VC is and the key findings of your report last year?
Diversity VC are a not-for-profit group, and we're on a mission to build a fairer, more representative VC industry. We were launched in 2017. Most of our work up till now has been research on the demographics of the industry today. We found that of the current VC workforce, 30% are female. Most of these individuals are working in more junior positions or not on the investment team. 76% are white. That's compared to 59% of the working population in London, which it's worth considering with all these statistics is where most of these VCs are based. 1 in 5 will have gone to Oxford, Cambridge, Stanford or Harvard and or have a degree from a business school. And for an industry where we're investing in the companies of tomorrow, it's quite interesting that only 8% of us have actually worked in a startup before.
So Claire, what was it that made Silicon Valley Bank want to sponsor the report?
So diversity and inclusion is one of Silicon Valley Bank's core values. And the reason why we sponsored the Diversity VC report is to very much try and tackle this issue head on and enable change. And don't get me wrong, we have seen some positive changes, which will hopefully come through in the long run. But there's actually so much more that needs to be done now. It's critical that VCs truly embrace diversity of thought. And they do this by building teams around them who vary in terms of age, gender, ethnicity, career and educational backgrounds. And this is particularly important at partnership level.
So I'm really interested in how the report talked also about the career and the educational backgrounds, as well as just the more traditional demographics. And what impact do you think this has on the ways in which individuals invest?
It has a huge impact. So it's not new news that diverse teams perform better. And we at Silicon Valley Bank strongly believe that diversity builds stronger teams and enables better investment decisions. There has been a huge focus on gender and ethnicity. Diversity has multiple parameters, right? So actually looking at education and career, they're still hugely influential in in shaping our behavior and how we make decisions.
It's probably worth mentioning at this point that from a small fund's point of view, they don't have an HR person normally. They don't have the resources to go through a really formal hiring process. It is usually much easier to go through their own networks or to go through a recruiter who will themselves just hire from the same networks. So we can see how this whole lack of diversity does form. But just because we can understand how that happens, that doesn't mean that funds don't need to go out of their way to reach out to other more diverse networks, because this added layer of homogeneity in the industry does really affect who they invest in.
I also think it's critical that the industry changes what they view a good founder to be. So typically they'll look at a candidate, and if they see that they're ex-Facebook or ex-Harvard or Stanford, that's a really good filter to get them to that next level as to whether they'd consider investing in that company. And don't get me wrong, of course, that can help with finding candidates who have high IQ and good talent. But actually, there are lots of other data points that come into play as well. So you could look at the founders' risk, whether they have the right risk appetite, their sense of perseverance, their ability to build a team, and their general, founder behaviors. And I think that gets overlooked if you just look at someone's career and education background.
And have you seen VC firms that you would say have an inclusive culture? And if so, what would you say help them to foster this?
Yeah, so a lot of our clients, I think, have built very inclusive cultures. I do think that diversity helps. So having a diverse management team or partnership, and having people who are genuinely passionate about inclusivity and are aware of the issues of the lack of diversity within the industry. So you need the people at the top to feed this down, so it cascades down to the wider team and encourages them to embrace it as well.
And just to disagree with some of what you said there slightly, I think it's very true that you do need to get people at the top of the business to buy into diversity and inclusion. but you don't need to be a diverse team to develop a diverse and inclusive culture. So you look at some funds who have less visibly diverse board members and partners, and they are absolutely killing it when it comes to inclusion. I think it's really important to acknowledge the work that is done by these funds, because sometimes the conversation around diversity and inclusion can feel quite exclusive, paradoxically, to certain people. And that absolutely shouldn't be the case, because it's going to take everyone in the industry working together to build a truly diverse industry overall.
Thank you very much, Julia and Claire, for joining me. And thank you to everybody who's watched. If you are interested in this topic, please do take time to look at the other videos in our series.